So, why am I picking Keir Starmer? Well, for a start, the Tories are finished. The Tories are toast. Keir Starmer will be the next Prime Minister of this country. But it's important to know that he himself has done nothing to deserve this. He is, quite simply, one of the luckiest men in British political history. He is benefiting from the implosion of the Tories in England and the SNP's self-inflicted wounds in Scotland. The last 3 by-elections demonstrate this clearly. Mid-Bedfordshire saw a 20.5% swing to Labour. Tamworth, 23.89% swing to Keir Starmer's party. Rutherglen and Hamilton West by-election. The result was a swing of 20.4% from the SNP to Labour. What Keir Starmer says and what Keir Starmer does really matters. And on that count, the recent behaviour in relation to the Middle East, to Gaza, to Israel, has been truly shocking. It all started with the now notorious LBC interview last week.
A siege is appropriate? Cutting off power, cutting off water?
Well, I think that Israel does have that right. It is an ongoing situation.
Let's be clear what Sir Keir Starmer is saying here. He's explicitly asked if a state has a right to commit a war crime, and cutting off the water, power, electricity and medical supplies to a civilian population is most definitely a war crime. And Sir Keir Starmer says,
I think that Israel does have that right.
But then it became increasingly clear that this was the established Labour Party front bench position. Any time that they were going to be asked about Israel and Israel's behaviour and possible war crimes, they had one stock answer. And that answer was, Israel has the right to defend itself, with the unspoken part up to and including a war crime left unsaid, but definitely, most definitely implied. You don't have to be a human rights lawyer, which Keir Starmer claims to be, to know that there is never any situation where it's acceptable for any state to commit a war crime. Never. But this was the answer that the Labour Party front bench had apparently chosen to deliver. We saw it a few days later when Emily Thornberry was interviewed on Newsnight. Now, this interview is really painful to watch, the full interview, but here's a short snippet.
Do you think cutting off food, water and electricity is within international law?
I think that Israel has an absolute right to defend itself against terrorism.
That's not the question I asked.
It is an answer to the question that you've asked, and I think it's an appropriate one at this time.
Why won't you answer whether you think it's in line with international law or not?
Because I've tried to answer, and I've tried to say that we've already heard from your previous guest about what might be happening on a day-to-day basis. So
the backlash from both Labour Party members, Labour Party voters and Labour councillors was immediate. Initially, it was just a trickle of resignations. But remember, Keir Starmer and his team have weathered this type of storm before. In fact, they seem to be quite happy if what they consider to be left-leaning members of the Labour Party are leaving, because, remember, as far as Keir Starmer and his team are concerned, it is the left wing of the Labour Party that are the real enemies, not the Tories. Their attitude was very neatly summed up in this now deleted tweet. Lab source on the few quitting party over stance on Hamas. Quote, shaking off the fleas. So now you know. If you are a member of the Labour Party, a member of Keir Starmer's Labour Party, and you object to war crimes, this is how they think about you. They think of you as a blood-sucking parasite that thrives in unclean and unhygienic conditions. UK's Labour Party shaken by a string of resignations over stance on Gaza. Resignations come after party leader Keir Starmer said Israel had right to cut power and water supplies to Palestinians living in Gaza. As that week unfolded, it became increasingly clear that the advantages gained by appeasing Israel might be outweighed by the number of votes lost from people who, just kind of objected to war crimes on principle and refused to vote for a party that would support war crimes. So it was time for a climb down. Some Labour councillors quit the party over Sir Keir's comments, which they argue amount to an endorsement of the collective punishment of Palestinian people against international law. But Sir Keir's spokesman sought to defuse the row Wednesday, a week after the interview was broadcast, by suggesting the Labour leader had only meant to say Israel had a general right to self-defence. But this wasn't enough. The protests continued, the resignations continued, so the man himself had to step forward and speak.
You gave an interview the other day in which you implied that it would be justified for Israel to cut off Gaza's power and water supply. Is that what you meant?
Well, I welcome this question because I know that LBC clip has been widely shared and caused real concern and distress in some Muslim communities. So let me be clear about what I was saying and what I wasn't saying. I was saying Israel had the right to self-defence, and when I said that right, it was that right to self-defence. I was not saying that Israel had the right to cut off water, food, fuel or medicines.
And yet people came to that conclusion.
On the contrary, for over a week now, I have been leading the charge, calling for that humanitarian aid to come in.
What a barefaced liar he is. We all watched the video, we all saw the video, we all heard Emily Thornberry repeat exactly the same words, almost verbatim, when confronted by the same questions from the interviewer. And not only that, we heard similar from other members of Keir Starmer's front bench. Some prominent leading members of the Shadow Cabinet and other senior party members have made similar remarks in defence of Israel's latest actions, including Emily Thornberry, the Shadow Attorney General, John Healey, the Shadow Defence Minister, and David Lammy, the Shadow Foreign Secretary. Keir Starmer is going to be the next Prime Minister of this country, and as such, it is incumbent upon him to listen to the people of this country and to hear what we are saying in terms of what we expect our politicians to be fighting for, advocating for, and supporting. It's perfectly clear what the people of this country want. The people of this country want a ceasefire. They want an end to the hostilities. They want an end to Israel's bombardment of a civilian population in Gaza. Andrew Fisher posted, yesterday, YouGov polling showed 76% of voters and 89% of Labour voters want an immediate ceasefire in the Israel-Gaza conflict. So far, 62 MPs, 34 Labour, have signed EDM 1685, protecting civilians in Gaza and Israel, calling for a ceasefire. Others have made this call too. As mentioned in that post, there's a bill currently going through Parliament calling for exactly such a ceasefire. Now, you won't be surprised at the MPs that are driving that bill forward. Rich Bergen, John McDonnell, Zara Sultana, Nadia Whittam, of course Jeremy Corbyn, Ian Lavery, John Trickett. As our next Prime Minister, Keir Starmer should add his name to that bill. He should add his weight to the calls for a ceasefire. He should join the vast majority of the people in this country calling for a ceasefire. Here are the people of Glasgow adding their weight, adding their names, adding their voice to the need for a ceasefire.